Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 24th day of October. Folks, we got a great game coming up here, about 15, 20 minutes or so, with the Rams in Minnesota. Actually, got an interesting take on that particular game. Also, Tua will be back in action this weekend after, about a 6-week layoff with the concussion protocol and whatnot. He's going to be back. I got a few thoughts on that. Jameis Williams suspended again, this time for PEDs. Everything looks good except for this for Detroit Lions. I'll talk about that as well. And, of course, I've got Kevin Carroll coming back. We're going to talk about the college game, get his thoughts on the way Tennessee, Alabama played out. Of course, we'll talk about last week's Georgia, Texas, throw in a little bit of talk about the rankings right now and see what he thinks and where everything is and whatnot. We'll get a little bit of that in as well. So let's take our first and only break. We'll be back here momentarily, hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports. Thanks.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
All righty then, now I'm back here live. Okay, quick take before the game comes on here in just a few minutes. I know it's going to be on Amazon and whatnot, but this is a good game coming on tonight. I'm definitely going to try to get this show downloaded as soon as possible, get it done on time and get it downloaded, and get to watch this game in SoFi Stadium, Minnesota, at the Rams. Also, I wanted to thank Jason Patterson for coming on last night. Great stuff there, Jason. If you didn't get a chance, go back and listen to that interview with him talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, getting his take a little bit on the college game. He covers the Kansas City Chiefs as a contributor for the Pig Trail Nation. That actually covers the Kansas City Chiefs, and an interesting story there about Kareem Hunt there as well. So check out that. Did want to thank Jason for coming on last night. Okay. All righty then. Tonight's game. So the Rams, folks, they'll have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back tonight. Although I have been reading a lot of rumors per se. We still got the trade deadline coming up on November 5th, folks. The Cooper Kupp has been mentioned as a potential trade candidate. Now he's back healthy. I don't think he's played all year. If he has, he hasn't played that much. He's going to be back. I know I've read the Chiefs were interested. Of course, now they've already made this trade with for DeAndre Hopkins, who's now in Kansas City, and there's a chance Hopkins may play this weekend. But there is some speculation this could be Cooper Kupp's last game with the LA Rams tonight, and Puka Nacua, their second-year phenom wide receiver, also back tonight. Mind you, this is the second week. This Rams team had a bye week the week before last, just like Minnesota did. Okay, Minnesota coming off that Detroit game, pretty tough physical game. Now they had to go on a road on a short week and play at the LA Rams. They're currently anywhere, depending on what book you look at, anywhere from 2.5 to 3-point favorites there. The Vikings are, but I will say this, Jason McIntyre made a good point. He was Scott from Fox Sports the other day that, Stafford's really good at handling the blitz. I've mentioned this program before. If I haven't, I am now. The cornerbacks are not really, if they have a weakness there at Minnesota, it's at the cornerback position. I know they signed Stephon Gilmore, but he's like 35, 36 years old. That's the reason why it took a while for him to get signed. I actually like the Rams to come up with the win tonight, upset Minnesota, the team that looked unbeatable at times to start off this season. I mentioned this the other day with Sam Darnold getting that interception, 3 sacks, kind of walked into a couple of those plays there. He might be coming back down to earth a little bit from the original play there that he was playing at. And I think the Rams are going to be able to get to him some tonight. So I like the upset here. The home team, Rams, get the win, 27-23. Rams get the upset win outright. Just a educated thought there. Okay. All righty then. Another big story, folks. I've got so much caught up with those trades and everything and the college football news. I did not really get a chance to talk about this week, but I have now. Tua will be back playing Sunday for the Miami Dolphins. Remember, he has been out since week 2. Remember, folks, that Thursday game against Buffalo with another concussion where his hand was shaking like he did a few years ago in the Cincinnati game, ironically, on another Thursday night game. And, I'm sure with all the public scrutiny from the last time he had this handshaking incident that he was definitely cleared. I do not think that Miami was cutting any corners with Tua. I think he probably could have came back in a few weeks, but they put him on out, or he's been out for 6 weeks, Pickles. He's been out for 6 weeks. My guess is he's probably ready a few weeks ago, but they wanted to slow walk it. You had the CTE settlement with the NFL, and I understand people from the outside who do not play in the NFL. It's easy, folks, for me and you to say, hey, man, you just signed this big contract. Go ahead and retire. Discuss some kind of injury settlement. Get all the guaranteed money you can get and get out of there. It's easy for us to say it. But listen, we weren't with this guy day in and day out, staying up late, studying, working out, icing his legs over from high school all the way up through Alabama, now through the NFL, and just to see him walk away like this, I'm sure he's discussed this ad nauseum with his family. He seems like a good guy, a family-oriented guy. I'm sure he's listening to his siblings and he's listening to his own personal instincts there an intuition per se. And I believe that, personally, I can respect that where he's coming from. My only advice, not to sound like a broken record, not to sound like Captain Obvious, but he should never have done that play that he did. Even the safety for the Buffalo Bills said, man, why did you do that? Why did you try to get that extra yard? Bills were really handling them at the time. The game was starting to get somewhat out of reach. And you just cannot duck your head like that, knowing your history with concussions and whatnot. My thing is, you simply have to, he's got to play smarter. You got to protect yourself. And this is, if I'm any coach, you've got to protect any position in the NFL, particularly this league. You've got to protect yourself at all times. No more quarterback sneaks. That's what they pay those running backs for. Hey, buddy. Hey, Patrick. Good to see you, man. Thanks for supporting the program, dude. Pickle says, slide to a slide. Yes. Russell Wilson, he's got it down. Kyler Murray, those are two former baseball players. Sliding there and making things happen there with their legs. I've even seen, I was bragging about no guard and helmet. Yeah, plus they have those new helmets there too, by the way. But I was even bragging about Lamar Jackson. I noticed he's gotten better at this thing. He's starting to get out of bounds. Now, he ran for 9 yards. He's a bigger player, more fit player, a thicker player. The guy's still got – he's a pretty elusive guy. He's not super fast per se, but, they have different helmets they're coming out with. Throw the ball away. And that's if I'm the general manager, the owner, Mr. I forgot his name now, Steven something, that owns the team. But either way, all the way down, I'm saying just do what you got to do, protect yourself. Don't worry about what the teams think about getting that extra first down. We've got receivers, we've got running backs. That's what they're paid for. Those offensive linemen, they're paid to go in those big giant wall size guys. They're paid to go against other giant wall size guys on the defensive side, not you. And quite frankly, look, his value couldn't even be more higher than it is right now. You look at Tyreek Hill, all that money they're paying him. He said he was almost crying today practicing with Tua. He's a pretty emotional guy anyways. Tyreek Hill said think about this. Think about this for a second. As bad as the Colts defense has been this year. Now, I will say it's not as bad as the Jags have been. The Jags have been pretty much the bottom of the barrel. But at one time they really were. No DeForest Buckner. You had 2 weeks, Mike McDaniel, from the head coach there of the Dolphins, to be able to get your big-time, high-dollar playmaker Tyreek Hill the ball against that, on a fast track, against that Colts team. You would think he'd have 125 yards and maybe a couple of touchdowns, one on the end around and one on a pass. No. 1 catch, 5 yards for the Miami Dolphins, folks. That was without Tua. Tua has shown his worth. You didn't really get that much out of Tyler what's the other guy's name here? Not Tyler Huntley, but Skylar Thompson. He got hurt. You didn't get that much out of neither one of them. And Thompson done good in the past, but they couldn't get nothing out of Tua in this particular game, or not Tua, out of Tyreek Hill in this particular game here, and they look bad. They look bad. I think they lost to the Colts last week, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I screenshotted that one. But my whole point is his stock is way up right now. I mean, they look like, off of a bye week, they look like a shell of what they were at this time last year when they were smoking teams like a total cigar here, And so they do need the guy. I'm sure he's feeling good that he is needed. Just to say, look at the record there. He went out in the Buffalo game. They lost to Seattle 24-3. They lost to Tennessee and they lost their quarterback to Tennessee 31-12. They beat the Patriots. What's that tell you about the Patriots? They had a bye week, and then they lost 16-10 to the lowly Indianapolis Colts there, with Tyler Huntley starting the last 3 games there, winning 1. So, yeah, Tua looks good there, and he's just got to get out of that habit. Now, if he gets himself hurt again and runs wide open into the defense, that's a Tua problem. That's a Tua problem. And this is a quarterback-driven league, folks. You've got to have this is a quarterback-driven league. You've got to have your starting quarterback intact. There's a reason why you cannot hit these guys in practice, because sometimes the play, in most cases, especially in the pros, the play drops off tremendously, and you're totally out of sync there when bringing in a young quarterback or a backup quarterback in for your starter. So more power to him. I'm okay with Tua's decision to go ahead and play because they need him right now. Again, going back to my preseason predictions, I thought this team lost too many defensive players. I didn't think they should have re-signed Waddle. You either move off Hill or Waddle or both. I would have probably moved off Waddle because he can't stay healthy. They drafted him when he couldn't stay healthy. Instead, they got rid of Christian Watkins and some other defensive players, and they re-signed Waddle. And here's what you have. I had them going like 6-11, and I feel pretty good about that prediction. Actually, they've got 2 wins, one more than your lowly Titans and your New England Patriots. So more power to him. I'm okay with it. Again, I'm simply okay with it. All right. Okay. I've been bragging on this Jameis Williams. I've been bragging on this Detroit Lions team for 2 weeks. I've showed you all some game footage here of post-game footage, of Dan Campbell celebrating with the team. They were my preseason NFC team to make the Super Bowl. I thought that was a really big win on the road without Aiden Hutchinson, beating that Minnesota Viking team there. Very much proud of everything they're doing. I think they are to get Jahmyr Gibbs the ball more, but it seems like they are. You got Jared Goff, under 25 passes last few games, and playing at an MVP level as far as his completions and everything are concerned. But then today, I've been reading about this, and I've got distracted on the DeAndre Hopkins trade and everything because I was going to a potential team that could win a 3-peat Super Bowl with Tennessee and the Tennessee Ties. A lot of people have asked me about that. But this story's been out a couple of days. Jameson Williams, and I'll see you back there, Kevin. I'll bring up just a few minutes, buddy. Jameson Williams, former Alabama player, and that's not a bad thing because, listen, Jahmyr Gibbs is former Alabama player with Detroit, and he's killing it along with Brian Branch. Brian Branch is playing at an all-pro level, their second-year safety out of Alabama. But their number 12 pick, former 12 pick overall, Jameson Williams, was hurt when they brought him in. They drafted him anyways at 12. I haven't second-guessed anything General Manager Brad Holmes has done. I've praised him to the high heavens. I've had Detroit guys and natives on the program from different areas, 2 or 3 different Detroit folks on the program over the past year or so. And really, they've been high on this team as well. But remember, Jameis Williams was injured when he got drafted back in 2022, missed most of the season that year. Last year, he gets suspended for 4 games for violating the NFL's gambling policy. Yes, that's true. 4 games for violating the NFL's gambling policy. And now he has been suspended 2 games for violating the NFL's PED, performance enhancing drug policy, Pickles. I mean, this guy, listen, 3 years in the league, can't stay healthy, been in trouble twice. Probably not going to hurt them this weekend. They're playing the lowly Titans up there in Detroit, but they do have Green Bay next weekend. And this is the toughest division in football. This NFC North, this is the strongest they've ever been in my lifetime. They look like they look like the AFC North last year, maybe even a little bit better, because you've got some stability there with these organizations. But this guy's a knucklehead. And the way Charles Barkley would say it, Pickles says you can't fix stupid. And this guy cannot get out of his own way. And for one thing, and I've talked about this with my dad in private, and I'll tell you all tonight that the Tampa Bay Buck game, they shouldn't have lost that game. But for whatever reason, offensive coordinator Ben Johnson wanted to feature Jameson Williams more and more and more and get him the ball more. I mean, you got Amon St. Brown. You've got Sam Laporte on this team. You've got Jamar Gibbs. They probably need some help at that wide receiver position, and they got a little pass happy in that Tampa game, and they end up costing them, and Baker Mayfield beat them at the very end. And this guy, you've got to stop giving him chances. Now, that you move on from him now, I don't know what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, I don't know the conversations they're having in private, but if it's me, maybe you go after another receiver for submit, because this is the kind of guy, this is the kind of guy to get a DUI before the Super Bowl. That's what kind of knucklehead Williamson is, in my opinion. That's what kind of maturity level this guy has. At this point, you definitely don't re-sign him. I mean, he's in his year 3. He's a former number 12 pick overall. Got all the measurables, height, speed, and everything, but he don't have good judgment whatsoever. So do you keep him on? Pickles these learn how to finish is what Carlos says. Yeah, I know. They definitely need to learn how to finish, and that is actually a weakness for them. Now, the Detroit there's receivers out there. I've said this ad nauseum that Cincinnati ought to dump one of their receivers, but I don't think they're going to do it at this time. I think that owner with the Bengals wants to keep those receivers on the roster so he can make money off Higgins jerseys and Jamar Chase jerseys, in my opinion. You kind of look at a team like Tennessee. Maybe they could have got more out of DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe they could have got more out of Hopkins from a Detroit. Now, this guy, just 2 games, but still, this is a special year. Should they add some insurance there and add another receiver? Possibly. It's something that I would think about, but it's one disappointing distraction. I don't think it's going to be a major distraction. Pickle says they must cut their losses. It just depends on what kind of locker room guy this guy is. I always thought Chad Johnson was a knucklehead when he played with the Bengals, but apparently he was a good locker room guy. The players liked him around. I know Carson Palmer never pulled any punches, and he seemed to like Chad Johnson. C.J. Houshmandzadeh liked him because it brought all the coverage off him and made his career better. So it depends on what it looks like. Everything's everything, for that team. But I'm sure upstairs and quietly they're thinking to themselves, man, what are we going to do with this guy? We got so much good going on here in Detroit. We're trying to do something special. We're trying to be historic. And then you got a guy like this who simply cannot stay out of his own way. Harold Landry on display for the Titans yeah, that's what I mentioned the other day, Chad. I've actually made that suggestion, if you've been following this program, that would be another guy that I would potentially trade. Now, This 4th and 5th round crap, no way. Harold Landry, they play Detroit this weekend. They have no Aiden Hutchinson. We're talking second round, third to a second to a potential first round pick for a guy who's gotten 12.5 sacks in the last 17 games for this year for Harold Landry. Everybody needs a pass rusher. So just like that Tears of Fear song, everybody wants to rule the world. I've been on an 80s binge here lately, listening to a lot of 80s music. And on that note here, switching gears to the college game, I've got Coach Kevin Carroll returning back to the program. What's up, man?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Man, we got a good crowd tonight here. Chad, Pickles, Carlos. Man, I feel like I'm doing a shout out here.
Nice.
Since you're pretty close to Nashville, I'll get your opinion before we get in the college game. Just thought about it. What's your thoughts on Tennessee trading DeAndre Hopkins?
I don't know. I guess we're kind of at a point where he was probably gone after the season, and they're probably thinking, let's get something out of him if we instead of nothing at all. So the only thing I find ridiculous is that the conditions of it turning from a 5th to a 4th. I mean, like if he plays 60% of the snaps, okay, I get that, but they got to make the Super Bowl. I mean, come on, man. That's y'all. That's their responsibility to get to the Super Bowl. It's not. I mean, come on, man. I mean, and
some of the Titans fans are secretly hoping he tears his ACL.
And
Lord, forgive me.
Yeah, the Chiefs ain't got anything. I mean, this is all their legacy this year is to go for 3 Super Bowls. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah, but as far as the Titans go, I see what they're doing. That these moves tell me that they've already made their mind up on Levis. I think they're like, okay, he is definitely not our guy. Yeah, we need to start like creating as much capital as possible and
draft capital and regular cap space.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the Landry thing. I don't want a 4th or 5th. I want a 2nd or 3rd at the very most. I mean, I give him to a team that needs him, like the Lions. They lost Hutchinson. They definitely need him. So
they played Detroit, and when they had Tennessee their rear end, we'll leave Harold Landry up there. He won't even have to fly back with the team, coach.
Right. Yeah. Tell him before they leave. Hey, go ahead and pack your bags.
We'll give you a hug. We appreciate all your services, and
we'll let you play with us one more game, and we'll let you play the first half, and then you stand on the sideline.
Then play the second half of the Lions.
Did last week.
Well, that would be hilarious if they let him play the second half of the Lions.
Right. Yeah, I don't.
But anyways, switching gears to the college game, to more uplifting stuff. What are your thoughts on Tennessee beating Alabama? Very impressive defensive performance by the Vols, but don't let me put words in your mouth. What do you think there, Coach?
Oh yeah, hey, they it's been said over and over again on all the sports networks. This is a championship level defense, and I agree 100%. I told you last week we needed to score over 20. I didn't think we would hold Bama under 20, but lo and behold, they absolutely did that. So that's great. Of course, my score was 27-20. I was 3 off from both teams. It was 24-17, which, I'm good with that because I believe the Vols left at least 20 points on the board in the first half. Yeah. I mean, they could have won that game 40-something to 17 or 4. I mean, they were that much better than Alabama. And if you remember in 22, Alabama was bigger and faster, and we had to win a shootout. There was not that big of there was no discrepancy this time.
That's a good point.
The athletes on both sides are very, very equal, and you can definitely see that Tennessee is getting better in that department, and they're on the same page as Bama and Georgia. Maybe not quite there in depth just yet, but absolutely working on it when you look at their recruiting classes that are coming up. So I mean. Yeah, they're definitely on the right track, and the defense. And I think Nico might have turned a corner. I think that hit he took in the second half when he got back up and he come back in, he started playing a lot better. He started hitting his shots. And
what do you think? What do you think? Sometimes that happens with players, like they're a little like who was it that used to say this?
It happened to Joe Burrow.
Yeah, he liked to get hit.
And then after he got popped that one time, he started lighting it up. I mean, maybe that was
Andrew
Nico's
Luck used to
wake-up
say
call.
that. Once I get tackled once, I feel like I'm ready to play.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Nico, from here on out, we may start seeing the Nico we were expecting to see, or at least a good percentage of it, and it may progress as he goes. These next couple games for the Vols is pretty big to get the offense in rhythm, get ready for Georgia, because I believe we match up really well with Georgia.
Wow.
You know, I mean, their wide receivers aren't that great. Our DBs are playing great. We get pressure on the quarterback. Our run defense is good. The only reason they beat Texas is because ETN was running his butt off. Quarterback for Georgia is slipping my mind. Beck, yeah.
Carson Beck.
He was like 20 of 25 or 45 or something like that. So I mean, he didn't really light the world up in that game. I mean, I think Tennessee's got a better defense than Texas does. The question's going to be
how good
offense.
is this Tennessee defense historically, Coach? I can't remember the last time they've been this good defensively, and I'm going back to the former days when they were winning SEC championship and the national championship back in '98.
Oh yeah, we got to go back to the mid to late '90s. I mean, are they that good? I don't know, because the games change from then to there. It's hard to really compare.
More lean and fast.
But if you look at the athletes though, this was probably the best set of athletes since that time. Linebackers are good. I mean, Arian Carter, he reminds me of the linebackers we had back in the day, like Al Wilson, Thompson, those
Kevin
guys,
Burnett.
Eric Westmoreland. I mean, those.
Oh
guys
you're going back late '90s. Yeah,
those guys were great. I mean, he reminds me of that type of mold. So I mean, and they got more guys coming up. They got some really good guys on the bench right now that I've heard great things about. They said these guys coming up are like another level. So yeah, I mean, the future is bright for the Vols. Then you got the David Sanders, the number 1 offensive tackle, coming in next year.
Okay.
He's actually coming in. He's an early enrollee, so he'll be there in January. So he's wanting to play. Yeah, he wants to play as soon as he can. So I mean, and he at least, if nothing else, could slide in at that right tackle. We'll still have Hurd at least one more year.
Okay.
So I mean, he may slide in at right tackle for a year before going over to left. But I do eventually see David Sanders being a left tackle. But
wow.
But yeah,
I never thought they would get the recruiting back to where they can compete with Georgia.
And they Alabama. Have absolutely. They are kicking butt on the recruiting trail. Yeah. I mean, Heupel, he is just killing it, and it's not just Heupel. He's got the right guys in there.
Yeah.
To do the.
Well, they got to keep this coordinator. Yeah. I don't know that defensive coordinator's name. He may be a hot commodity.
Tim Banks. Yeah. He I don't know if it will be this year, but he'll be a head coach eventually.
Well, you would hope not as a Vol fan.
We'll be lucky to keep him this year, but I mean, hopefully we can't at least one more year after this. But
right,
I mean, Tim Banks is going to be a head coach for sure. That people were complaining about him when was a couple 22 when South Carolina piled up all those points on us. People were complaining about Tim Banks. Oh, we need to fire him. And I was saying right then,
I might have been one of those people.
I was saying at the time, I said, Tim Banks does not have a whole lot of talent, and he doesn't have a whole lot of depth. I said, let this guy get his talent and depth in there, and I'm telling you, he will be a star coordinator in the future. And sure enough, he is living up. And the defense has gotten better year after year. So I mean, and it's even better this year. So
you were first to call that you said this depth on the defensive line. None of the national people said that. I've got all these stupid magazines. I didn't read it. Good call there by you, and that's why I keep bringing you back on. You really got some good insight. I didn't think they would play this well, man.
I looked at the Athlon magazines where they rank each group set,
Okay.
linemen, defensive linemen, offensive
Bill
linemen,
Steele and
linebackers,
all
yada
that.
yada. And I was expecting to see Tennessee somewhere in that top 10 or 5, and I'm like, they don't even got them on here. I was like, we're gonna sneak up on some people. They don't know what's coming. And
Yeah.
they've showed it on the field. They have shown what they can do. And that defensive front is the basis for that whole defensive success, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I
did read that Pierce could be a top draft pick. That was the only thing I read.
That's the only thing they're getting right was Pierce.
Yeah.
They wasn't talking about any of the other guys. And like I said, they've had 2 guys injured, and they're still good with depth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They got just guys coming out of the woodworks, going back on that line. The one guy goes down, another guy comes in. They're rotating like 4 or 5 at a time. So they're not getting wore down. You're not going to wear them down. If anything, they're wearing the offense down. So
so they got another bye week. Do you? So you don't think they'll have any problem against Kentucky? You like their chances on November 16th at Georgia?
Yeah, just from a sheer matchup standpoint.
Okay.
But Texas matched up good with them too, and we saw what happened right there.
Yeah.
So you never know. I don't believe the Arkansas loss was attributed to the bye week, because Heupel's
he's usually great
off of bye weeks.
Yeah.
I think it had more to do with being on the road, and I don't know. I guess Nico getting used to being on the road and playing on the road and stuff like that. But he didn't look that bad against Oklahoma, but he didn't light the world up, but he didn't look that bad. And I don't know. And the defense looked confused that game. It seems like they've tightened some things up since that Arkansas game. They just seem to be playing a whole lot more cohesively on the defensive side, and offense. I think offense started their comeback in the second half of that Alabama. They scored 24 points in that second half. So
they were shut out again at halftime. Man.
Yeah,
I wonder what they got to do about these slow starts there, Coach.
I think that ends this next game. We're going to see some points in the first half against Kentucky. And you see no shirts floating around where Kentucky's daddy. So hey, we are to Kentucky.
Who's
like
your daddy?
Kentucky or Tennessee is to Kentucky like Florida has been to Tennessee.
True.
there is just something they just
Smokey
cannot.
Back there, second that.
They just cannot play with us for some reason. And it's a speed discrepancy for one thing. Tennessee's always got a whole lot more speed than Kentucky, and it'll probably show again this next Saturday. I actually think Nico's going to start really putting it in this next time. I think he's going to have a big game. I see the receivers getting open, and he's going to hit them. I don't think he's going to keep overthrowing them. In the next 2 weeks, he's just going to hone up his passing game, and be ready for Georgia. And I think
they got a week off. College teams are getting 2 byes now. How do you know that? That's pretty cool, though. I think.
Yeah, I don't like it because I want to see them play. I was like, after last week, I was excited. I was like, who you
wanted to keep playing?
Like, they got
keep the momentum.
Yeah, that too. But it's mainly more selfish. I just want to see them play. I don't like. To be fair, there's a lot of really good games on this Saturday, so it's all good. But
I've got a video I need to show you real quick. Quick question about Quinn Ewers. You've seen him kind of lay eggs in the past. We talked about the TCU game a couple years ago with Quinn Ewers, the Oklahoma State Quinn Ewers game. He kind of reminds me of a little bit of a Kirk Cousins of the college game. Sometimes if he don't get off to a good start, if you rattle this guy early, I don't think he's got a lot of comeback in him. Let me show you this video. In the first quarter, I got this off TikTok. Georgia really getting to him. And man, it looks like he was seeing ghosts after this. Check this out.
The night. And he smacked. Ewers has pounded. The ball comes out. Still rolling around. Still up for grabs. And it looks like Georgia has recovered.
That was in the first quarter, Coach. Nobody had scored yet. I thought about changing my pick after that hit. I thought this is going to be Quinn Ewers being Quinn Ewers. This is a welcome to SEC moment. What are your thoughts about that, man?
I watched that whole game, and that play you saw right there, it happened 3 times. Once to Arch. I mean, the quarterbacks, the defensive lineman just had a free run and hit the quarterback in the back, and he fumbled. And that happened 3 times in that game.
Yeah.
That tells me that their O-line has pretty much come into that game untested. It looked like. I guess that's
what I was afraid of time last week when we talked.
Because I didn't have anything to go off of as far as them not being able to protect the quarterback, and Georgia hasn't been the best pass rushing team this season. So I mean, that just tells me that their O-line just ain't that good. I mean, it ain't as good as we thought it was, because they were playing against lesser competition. Other than Oklahoma, and Oklahoma didn't really get a lot of pressure on him. So that just tells me, their offensive line is probably a little overrated. They're probably good. They're not bad run blocking, but as far as pass blocking, they kind of got exposed that game. So, and they play somebody like Tennessee, they'll be in trouble.
I think Tennessee would match up well against them.
Yeah, they would be all over their quarterbacks, whether it's Manning or Ewers, either one of them, they would have been all over them. So I mean, it's just.
Why do you think they put Arch Manning in? Why do you think Steve Sarkisian put Arch Manning in there?
Well, he tried to say that he just wanted to get Ewers' mind straight or something like that. I call BS. I call BS. I think he wanted to see if Manning could light a spark and get something going, because the offense wasn't doing anything. That's why he put him in there. And then when he saw that it wasn't gonna work the way he thought it would, he was like, well, I better get Ewers back in there before he gets this looking over his shoulder thing where he thinks that I'm, opening up the competition and all that. So I mean, he was looking for a spark, and if Manning come out there and started just tearing it up, then he would have stayed in. I believe he'd have come out and stayed.
He was a better athlete, though. I may have kept Arch Manning in there, though.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people saying that. Since Arch is a better runner, maybe he would have been better against that defense. Honestly, I don't think it would have mattered, because they were on them so bad. I mean. They were getting so much pressure on the quarterbacks. It didn't matter who it was in there. They wasn't going to be able to do much. So it all starts on that line, man. I mean, don't matter how good your quarterback is, if you can't protect them, it ain't going to matter. So that's pretty much what happened in that game. That was the story of that game. The defensive line for Georgia getting pressure on
total mismatch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
They were throwing safety blitzes and stuff in there too.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. And you can expect that from a Kirby Smart coach team. I mean, that those guys know what they're doing. They come into that game, they watched the film on Texas. They knew what was going to work, and they did it, and they executed. So
was that a real welcome to SEC game moment, Coach?
Yeah, kind of. I think so. Yeah.
Now they play Vanderbilt this week. What do you think about you? Vanderbilt's 25th, by the way.
Yeah, good for them. Sucks they're in the SEC and it ain't gonna last. But hey, it's nice to see them actually break into the top 25. That's an accomplishment.
I can't remember.
Clark Lee should get Coach of the Year. I don't care what anybody else does.
Right.
Seriously, he should get Coach of the Year.
Yeah, they beat Kentucky up there. Kentucky beat Ole Miss this year.
Yeah, hopefully Vandy can hold on to him. Him being that being his alma mater, maybe he's got a little soft spot for Vandy and he stays, but he's going to have opportunities,
to get a better job.
Yeah, he'll have opportunities. So,
wow. How do you see that game playing out?
When you do something with less like that, that's what other athletic directors see those things. I mean, they see that and they're like, if he can do it with those guys, well, what could he do with, our recruiting base and everything. So yeah, James Franklin, exactly.
Yeah, I think so too, Pickles. I mean, this is a big emotional game. They've got to go on the road. Alabama put 41 on Georgia. And Vanderbilt held them to 35. Tennessee held them to 17. What does that say about Tennessee's defense, man?
Tennessee's defense is for real. And our DBs, that was the biggest question. And that was my biggest question too.
Yeah,
and
it's always is.
I still hadn't felt they'd been tested going into this game. And in this game, I mean, they locked those receivers down pretty good. Ryan Williams, he had a few catches, but I mean, he didn't go off.
He didn't look like he did in Georgia, did he?
Yeah, no. Is it McCoy? Did we have McCoy on him, didn't we?
Okay. I believe it was McCoy. I can't remember.
There's either McCoy or the other guys, and the Gibson. It was either McCoy. I believe it was McCoy. McCoy intercepted that pass in the first half.
Yeah.
Where he just kind of reached over and caught the ball. That was a pretty good play.
Yeah.
And, I mean, hey, our DBs are locking them down. So I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Linebackers playing good. D line's playing good. Yeah.
Are you going to watch that Vanderbilt? Actually, I'm actually recording Vanderbilt, Texas, man.
I don't know. The game I want to watch for sure on Saturday is Navy and Notre Dame. I'm really interested in that.
Do you really?
Yeah, Navy's undefeated still, and Notre Dame just a one loss, and since they lost to NIU, they've actually looked pretty good. So
yeah,
I want to see how they do against how Navy does against Notre Dame. I think that'll be, and I think Notre Dame is the road team. I believe I looked at that today, and I was like, okay, so it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be an easy win for Notre Dame because Navy and Army both are looking pretty good. So yeah, I'm
both of them undefeated. Yeah.
Another game I was wanting to watch was Indiana and
what do you think about Indiana being undefeated? Game day is going to be up there in Bloomington.
That's why I want to see them. I want to see them because I want to see how they look. To me, I want to see how good they are myself. So they're playing. I can't remember who it is, but it's a decent team this week. So I'm gonna check that out and see how they're looking against that team. And there's a few. There's like two other games.
LSU will play
LSU and A&M.
A&M.
That's definitely I'm watching.
Is
that
A&M for
Saturday
real?
night? Yeah, I'm watching that Saturday night. Well, LSU got to go to A&M and play them there, and they're tough to beat at home.
Yeah,
and they're a little better right now than they were when they played Notre Dame, I believe. So
yes,
it ain't gonna be
LSU's way better than when they played USC.
Yeah, it ain't gonna be a picnic for either side. I think it'll be a good ball game. And the winner of that game, I believe, has a very good chance to get into the SEC championship.
Wow.
If whoever wins the game, LSU will have to beat Bama, which we've seen is doable.
Yes.
Alabama does have to go there, and then Texas A&M would have to beat Texas, and as we can see, you can beat Texas. So I mean. I believe whoever wins that game has a really good chance to go to the SEC championship.
That's in November. That's going to be huge for A&M and Texas. That's the old rival game.
Be a great game to end the season. And then Tennessee, if they beat Georgia, I'm going to say they're going to win their other games because I believe they will.
Okay.
But if they beat Georgia, I believe Tennessee will be there against one of those other teams. And I'm almost like, I don't know if I want to go to the SEC championship or not. I mean, the SEC championship is basically the first round of the playoffs. Okay.
Yeah.
And just hear me out on this. If you win it, then you get a bye and you don't have to play the first round.
Yeah.
If you don't go and you make the playoffs, you got to play the first round. So basically, you're playing a game when the rest of them aren't playing a game anyway.
But if you go to the first round, you don't play the first week. They don't.
Yeah.
I don't like that, Coach.
I don't either. I would almost rather, honestly, not play the SEC championship game and play the first round. I'd rather have a home game in Neyland than I would.
I want to see Tennessee play Ohio State or something.
Yeah, I'd rather have a home game in Neyland than I would have a first round bye.
Yeah,
and because if we win the SEC championship, which I think if we go, we got a really good shot to do that. If we win the SEC championship, then more than likely we'll be the 1 or 2 seed if we don't lose another game and win the SEC championship.
It's a big if. Yeah.
If we lose the SEC championship game, then we're probably going to be right outside the top 5, and we'll
what if they lose a close game to Georgia though? What do you see happening there?
If they lose a close game to Georgia, I see us on the road in the first round.
But you still say that they'll.
I think they make it. If they get blown out by Georgia, they got a chance to get kicked out of the playoffs. Period. But as long as it's a close game, I believe they'll get a first round game probably on the road. They probably won't host a game, but I hope they beat them because I want to see them host a game. A
That'll
home
be
playoff
awesome.
game in Neyland to me is like about
In
as good
December
as it gets.
too, man.
Yeah, it's about as good as it gets. I mean, we're all on Christmas break, and the playoffs are going on. I mean, that'll be wonderful. Being able to
Amen.
watch them, period, will be wonderful. What they're in the playoffs, I'm happy. That's my thing. I want them to get in. These other things are bonuses. But if they get in, that's I'm happy. I think if they get in, they got an opportunity to where they could possibly win the whole thing. Just get in. We're at that. They've changed it now to where it's just to get in the dance and give yourself a chance, and that's what I like about it. Yeah, that's what I like about it. And
so you don't see there being a true. And I asked this to Jason, my guy that came on yesterday. There's not really a true number one team out there right now, in your opinion.
You could put several teams up there. Oregon is good, but I don't see Oregon as unbeatable at all. I mean, honestly, I'm not even sure they're going to finish out the season unbeaten, to be honest. I could see them slipping up against somebody. I mean, and it might not even necessarily be a good team. It could just be an average team that just just the right day and it just happens. I mean, it's been happening all season. So,
what about Penn State and Ohio State? Do you see them possibly knocking out Ohio State in a couple of weeks?
I hadn't seen enough firepower from Penn State. That they're a good, solid team, and when they play teams that they can bully around a little bit, they can beat them. But I don't think they can bully Ohio State around.
Yeah, that's true. I like that number 44 though.
Yeah, Ohio State's speed on the outside, I think, is going to be a little too much for Penn State, and they can run the ball really well. I mean, I think Ohio State's going to get them. I'd like to see Penn State beat them. I'd rather Penn State get in there than Ohio State. I mean, we see Ohio State just about every year, so I mean, it'll change it up a little bit. There's nothing against Ohio State. I think they got a great program, and I think the fan base is nuts for acting like they need to fire Ryan Day. That's just ridiculous. But they're a good program. I mean, that's why they're in the mix every single season. So
I think that they would. I've said this before. I think they would beat Oregon at a neutral site game. I mean, that was a 2-point game. I mean, you get that field goal off, they win. It's hard to win in Eugene, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. I know it's hard to beat a good team twice, no matter how you look at it.
That's true.
If Ohio State had barely won the game, if Ohio State had barely beat Oregon, they wouldn't want to see Oregon again in the playoffs. I mean, just like I'm sure Oregon's like, we don't want to see them again, and I don't blame them either at all. And that's why I hope if we beat Georgia finds their way out of the playoffs, because I don't want to have to play them again. We already beat them, we're done with them. But and if we beat them, there's a good chance they might slip out unless they run the table, and then they may be on the back end, on the road in the first round, which it's all positioning at this point. I mean, these key games are positioning in the playoffs here in the next several weeks.
I'm like you. I don't really. I don't see anybody from these major conferences going undefeated, man. We just saw Texas go down.
Yeah.
And then I'm counting the conference championships. I mean, maybe. I don't know what division or conference Indiana's even in now. Are they still in the Big Ten?
They're in the Big Ten. I looked at all their games to see who they play. They do got to play. I think they got to play Penn State, and I think they got to play Ohio State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
well, they got Washington this weekend. That's right.
Yeah. They're not going to. They're not going to just.
Oh, they got to play Ohio State November 23rd.
Yeah, they're not going to just slide through. They're going to have to ante up at some point. So one of them, either Ohio State will get another loss or Indiana will go undefeated. We'll see. I'm interested. I wanted to see their game tomorrow or Saturday because I want to see how good they are to myself. Yeah, Army's
in a different
too.
conference, ain't they? AAC or whatever that is.
Yeah, it's one of the smaller ones. They're playing really well as well too. So I mean, yeah, and I think Notre Dame's got to play them too. Notre Dame's got to play Army and Navy. So that's
Army's got a week off, and then they play Air Force on November 2nd.
Yeah.
They do play Notre Dame, on the 23rd of November.
Yep.
And Navy at the end of the season, Army Navy, December 14th, like always.
Yep. Yep. And I like to see the service teams doing well. I mean, that's a good thing. Those guys, they work their butts off, and they changed it up.
The game's usually
bit.
unwatchable. That's what I was telling Keith Engel, and it's this year it may be good.
I love watching old school wishbone offense, man. I'm an old school guy. I go to YouTube and watch these old games, old college games. That's all they were at one point. They'd line up in a wishbone, and they were just smashed into each other for 60 minutes. I love watching that stuff. And those two teams run it so well. But now they've added some twist in there, and they throw the ball a lot more than they have in the past, which you can attribute to their success. Even though I enjoy watching those types of offenses, I know that they're somewhat inadequate when it comes to today's game because you got to be able to throw the ball. But Army and Navy and Air Force, they don't have access to the same athletes that everybody else does, and those types of offenses work for disciplined teams that don't have as much talent, and which explains why they run it for years and years. So, I get
it.
And
they give talented teams problems for a little while.
Yeah, because teams aren't used to preparing for that. Those are the types of offenses that give teams trouble because they just don't see it very much. So,
well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I may bring you back before Tennessee, Georgia. If Tennessee can survive the next few games and not lay another egg, Coach.
Yeah, I hope so. Hey, man, I hope not. I'd love to come on anytime. Yeah, it was fun, man.
Yeah, appreciate you. Kevin Carroll, everybody. Chad Collins says good stuff, man. And Pickle says good show. You get a lot of shout-outs, brother.
Hey, appreciate it, guys. Got to get a New Yorker on here with me sometime.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I hate panels, but you guys, I guess I'll make an exception one day.
Yeah. We had some stuff to say one time, and we didn't get a chance to talk.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago at the other game, remember?
Yeah, it's cool, though.
All right, brother.
All right, we'll do, man. Appreciate it.
See you, man. Thanks. All right, everybody. Speaking of Mad New Yorker, hopefully I'll be back here tomorrow with the Mad New Yorker. Carlos, we'll be talking about that World Series. I heard something on the radio coming in. This World Series, now I talked about this on Monday or Tuesday. I didn't have a show Monday, but 5 former MVPs on both of these teams, folks. 5 former MVPs. That is unbelievable of players in star power with the Yankees and the Dodgers come Friday, tomorrow night, the start of the World Series. If you appreciate just great sport and just great competition at the highest level, this is going to be one of the ages here, Dodgers, Yankees. They're not a huge baseball guy, but this was going to be something. So I'm actually recording it for tomorrow. I'll ask the Mad New Yorker about that. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks for the participation. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, here on the Real Sports Scope.